So, hello to everybody. Let us talk with people who have their own memories to their legacy towards the fall of the Berlin Wall and the end of the communism. I'm very delighted to talk to Juraj Antal from Slovakia. He was chairman from 2011 to 2013 for the European Democrat Students, the biggest student organization in Europe, and he's currently working as entrepreneur. Juraj, if you're looking back, what is your first connection to the events of 1989 to 1991?
Well, I don't have that many memories, but what I remember quite strongly was between 1991 and 1992, Czechoslovakia was already a free country with democracy. However, there was the war between the so-called war between Czech and Slovak about using the name Czechoslovak Federative Republic. So my first memory really is when we started writing federative instead of socialist into the name of the country, because I started going to school in 1991. So first year we were taught the letters, and then they told us that we have to write CSFR as the name of our country. That's really the first recollection I have personally. Other than that, later was the change of money from Czechoslovak money to the Slovak crown, now 1993, 1994. So these are the very first memories of these my personal memory.
You were very small at that time. Did you feel any kind of relief, euphoria in the surrounding what your parents and grandparents told you later about these events?
Absolutely, my parents were not protesting on the streets because at that time they had two small children at home, me and my brother. But the euphoria was quite strong. They were all of my family was a strongly Catholic belief, and they used to go to church every Sunday. They go to church until today, but now the whole and we were going with them because we were small kids. But the idea that we could go there and nobody would be snooping around, nobody will be taking care of our names or my parents' names, they didn't really like that, but still they went with it, and they went to church because of their beliefs. And now all of this was gone. Nobody was snooping around. Nobody was asking questions at their workplaces. So I remember this was also a quite euphoric thing for my parents to see at their workplaces. These socialists, what you call them, collaborators with the secret police, have kind of disappeared all of a sudden from the workplaces as well. So nobody was taking notes anymore about what they were saying at their workplace. So this was positive.
And how this legacy influenced you in your role as a leader when you took over the chairmanship of the European Democrat Students, which actually was involved in the fights for freedom already before in 1989.
Very strongly. Basically, all my childhood in the 90s, growing up, I was growing up as a and led to the free market thinking. My parents started having their business in 1993. My father had a construction company. Then my mother opened a wholesale company, which we have until today. And the whole entrepreneurial spirit was always in my parents, and it was kind of pushed back by the socialist regime. After that, the socialist regime collapsed. My parents were really eager to find any ways how to what to start dealing with, what to do as a business. So the parents' company is today 27, 28 years old, and we're really happy to have that change, and also with having that Catholic upbringing, every Sunday going to mass freely, do what you want, and then what really pushed me into the sphere of sort of center right thinking. And when I joined the Slovak organization, it was out of really the spite to the socialist government in Slovakia that was in power from 2006 to 2010. And that's when I joined the center right organization here in Slovakia, and then somehow it went up all the way to EDS. And this memory of or the legacy that the 90s have brought, and what was taught and what I was shown, have absolutely transpired into me and my leadership of the organization in 2011 when I got elected.
The interesting thing is with European Democrat students that there are also many young people inside which are not living in a liberal democracy. So you got friends also from Belarus, from Ukraine, for example. So if you see now the developments there, what's going on, how is that affecting you, and how you would bring that back basically to the idea that we are living in a free Europe, and what do you think what can be done?
Well, it's really hard with Belarus because Lukashenko's been there for quite some time. And I remember our friend back in when I was active, Anastasia Palazhanka. She was arrested as member of our sisterly organization back in 2010 after the 2010 manipulated elections. We were gathering in front of the Belarusian embassy in Bratislava in I think February in the winter, and protesting against it. They were afraid of us. Nobody came out to open the door. We put a protest note in the mailbox of the embassy, and that was about it. And here we are 11 years later, and there were still anti-Lukashenko protesters and all that. The difference between the protest in Czechoslovakia in '89 or the change of system in Poland, Czechoslovakia, Hungary is that um, the party got scared of the people, and they decided that it would be best to do a change. And Lukashenko, by himself, thinks that he knows best for the country, and he's not scared of the people. And well, as long as he has the support of the working class, really, he's not going to move anywhere. The After the elections, the last time that Lukashenko manipulated the presidential elections, when the workers in the factories started to turn on Lukashenko, that's when he started to be scared and started to make some concessions. But he never stepped down from the position of president, and I don't think he intends to. So he's not really scared of the people, and that's the difference. And really, you cannot do much with this until something else happens. And don't forget that Lukashenko is also not scared of stepping down, because he has a big brother behind him who helps and who supports him, who is in even a military union, and definitely a customs union with him. So the pressure from the big brother also not to do any changes is big, because they need to have a buffer around Russia, and Ukraine, and also Belarus is a buffer in Russian view. What we see in Ukraine after the Euromaidan events, that was huge acts of bravery on many sides of people. I remember the shooting of the snipers who were shooting people just randomly. These snipers then escaped to Russia, I believe. Till today, they're not punished. Then the president of Ukraine also escaped to Russia. He's now a unimportant figure. We don't even hear about him. So democracy can happen, things can change, but again, there the regime got scared of the people. The Ukrainian president got scared and he escaped with his minions and trying to get some money out of Ukraine, and that's why the Ukrainian Maidan was successful, and that's why. And on the contrary, Belarus is not successful in this way.
You're living basically in the real Central Europe. So, what is about the new discussions of the European solidarity? Do you see any new clashes, any kind of dividing tendencies? We discussed about the question of solidarity in the refugee crisis 2015-16. Now it's a question of the national states in terms of who is the best country dealing with the pandemic. So how you see, do you see any kind of dangers now for the spirit you were fighting as leader of the European Democrat students, or would you say this is just a normal process at the moment?
What I see in the 10 years that I've been actively in politics is a major shift. Basically, the division lines between left and right have been kind of smeared, non-existent. I'm not sure if I can say deleted, but definitely pushed. There you can see a lot of left-wing parties doing right-wing policies, right-wing parties doing left-wing policies. So the ideological background is not there. The only ideology of these days is to really create, as you say, division between people, who is with me, who is against me. I see a lot of disillusionment about politics. Politics is becoming kind of a profanity word. If you want to use the profane word, you use politics. I don't think that this word will survive in the future. I think we will start, the next generation of politicians will not title themselves as politicians, because that word will be just so much used in a negative sense that yeah. So really, what we see is this idea that that people feel that they're not being listened, and then they elect, Trump or Johnson or Marine Le Pen is having a lot of support in France, is because they feel that they're not listened to and not answered their calls. And always the politics should be reflecting on that, and that's why I'm saying that I don't see civic engagement, for instance. Yes, Corona had helped a lot in small pockets of solidarity, but even that has kind of gone away. As the first wave, we could see a lot of people helping each other out. Second wave, not that much anymore, and at least not in Slovakia. What concerns the solidarity, for instance, with refugees, is that Slovak position and the Slovak people, and there is an agreement on the transcending all Slovak parties, is that we are against the quotas, because simply no one in the electorate is for the quotas. So why would they push something that it would harm them in the electoral results? So not even center left or center right parties in Slovakia are in favor of Brussels mandated quotas for people to be distributed amongst member states. And one of the argument was that I saw is you cannot really hold these people in the country when they decide to move somewhere. It's not up to you to kind of hold them. You cannot restrain them from moving. So if they want to go to Germany or Sweden or any other country that they feel like, then they will move. Somehow amongst the refugees in 2015, there was this word out to kind of leave Czech Republic and Slovakia out, that the refugees are not welcome. People were not using our countries to get the transit. They used to transit through Hungary and Austria to Germany. So I don't know who spread this information to the refugees that you should leave Slovakia and Czech Republic out. But really, there were no transit ways. People were not entering here. They exactly knew where to cross from Hungary to Austria and not go to Slovakia, because somehow I really don't know how it got to them. So we never really had any major crisis. We were helping out the Austrian Republic with refugees who were waiting for their political asylum, and we had some people brought from their asylum-seeking places to Slovakia to help out. But once their asylums were granted or not granted, they were moved back to Austria, and either for Austrians to deal with them. So that's really what we can talk about solidarity in this sense. I don't see major changes in this. In Slovakia is kind of a more conservative country, so people do not like change a lot. When there is change, there should be gradual, like they did it in the Zorinda governments, where they changed the system, but not really much, so people would not suffer, and the end result would be good. And that's why we became the Tatra tiger, because the Zorinda government did changes, but not drastic, dramatic changes. And refugees were seen as a drastic, dramatic change. I remember there was a group of Christians from Iraq who were taken in by the Bishop of Nitra, and the Archbishop of Nitra had to find places for them to stay, and they found some locations in the Nitra diocese to take care of these Christians from Iraq, from northern Iraq, to escape war and to escape the Islamic State, and they were not openly welcome by the villagers there, and the priest told them that they're Christians. They're Christians from Iraq that need help because they're running away from persecution based on religion. And people in those villages were not really happy to see them there either. So I'm not sure if it's something to do with definitely not something to do with religion. It's maybe something to do with being just not used to seeing unknown faces or foreign faces. So this was basically the whole 2015 crisis for Slovakia.
Slovakia is mirroring some major developments. You spoke about some changes such as populism, and maybe also that you have a new type of politicians, entrepreneurs. You have maybe also some new business models of political parties. You met in all your years in a free Europe a lot of political leaders. What would you say about the last 30 years? Which persons, which leaders have inspired you, and especially also connected with the ideas living in a free Europe? What would you say? Which persons would come into your thoughts?
People always say that that people who inspire others are thinkers, and usually members of intelligentsia, and those who were literary people or writers, poets in the past, that they're the ones who, if they so choose to, do good things. Matlar from Estonia is a good example. He led the country to great reformation. Um, Helmut Kohl in Germany, great leader, inspiring person, a strong supporter of reunification of not just Germany but also of all of Europe, and to heal the wounds. Very inspiring person. Who else comes to mind? I think that's basically leaders. Of course, let's not forget Solidarność and Lech Walesa with his bravery, and then as president of Poland, also with Juraj Antal and President Havel dissolving the Warsaw Pact just because they thought it would be nice to dissolve the Warsaw Pact. So they decided and they signed an agreement called the Germans, the Bulgarians, who were also members of the Warsaw Pact, and they said, we're going to dissolve the Warsaw Pact. And they said, okay, let's do it. So they signed the agreement. And Václav Havel, obviously, our first president, our real president, also a literary man who wrote a lot of plays and dramatizations. And those are the kinds of people who inspire you um, with the vision. Today's politicians lack that vision. They're either technocrats who are just maintaining the order, maintaining the things how they are, uh, with very little deception, the description of how it's going to be in the future, what we foresee. And if they set some goals, they're really broad. Nobody understands those goals. They're up to 2050 and these kinds of things. So maybe hard times bring about strong leaders, and soft times or times of plenty bring about different leaders.
If you're coming back to the state of the art of the European Union, when I learned about the EU, I learned about deepening and widening. Somehow it stopped, right? We are not talking about the enlargement, about Ukraine, maybe Belarus anymore. We're also not talking about some new reforms after the Brexit. So, for example, the last treaty, the Lisbon Treaty, was made before all these crisis moments. So, what is your point actually? What should we do now for the next 30 years, and how we can basically reform the EU? Because we know that our world is changing so dramatically, and we have a lot of new powers such as China. And how would you say? Is it also the case, or would you agree that EU itself is too weak at the moment? And if it's the case, what can be done?
Well, EU in terms of politics might be weak, yes, but in terms of economics, no, because it's a block of single market. 450 million people in one place is a strong market, and having access to that market is quite significant. Even though you have to go through all the barriers to entry, which European Union does have, but United States also has their own barriers of entry, and so does China and the other big countries. I do see that there is a lost momentum in the reforms, but I think that this momentum kind of disappeared with the coming of the crisis with COVID. That the European Commission, for instance, has put. I mean, basically, if you think about Ursula von der Leyen, once she started as Commission President, the only thing she's dealing with is COVID. And COVID crisis and vaccines and getting companies to deliver vaccines on time. And if they don't, then she gets all the blame, unfairly, I think. But yeah, if the huge and efficient bureaucracy as Brussels is, and Brussels or the European Union's bureaucracy is one of the most efficient bureaucracies in the world. When they get tempered down or slowed down by a crisis of this magnitude that no one in the history of European Union has foreseen, then yes, you also lose the momentum, because really, what could have been done in the time when we would not be dealing with the crisis? No one. It's everyone's guess. They would say, we should have reformed this, we should have reformed that. Yes, but if you spend energy and time and money into only managing one thing, then it's the thing. So I think the reform will come later. once the capacities and energy is freed up for something else. Regarding the enlargement, I'm optimist in the future. However, there is one big country that's blocking now or vetoing the process of ascension of the Balkan states because of probably internal affairs, which we can kind of see or foresee and understand. However, once we will maybe in our lifetimes, I'm 36 years old, see a unified Balkans inside European Union. Belarus hardly, maybe Ukraine, Moldova with time, but for that, the leadership in Russia would have to change their worldview and not see this as an opposition, but as a possibility to cooperate. And I don't see that change happening in the current leadership in Russia. So Ukraine, Moldova, even Georgia, for that matter, is going to be a long-term thing. And also, um, tell it to the regular Spaniard or Belgian that Kosovo or Northern Macedonia are part of Europe. I mean, it's so far away from there mentally, in their heads. I've studied in England, for instance, and I've gathered the kind of the mindset of the British center right youth people and all that stuff. In their heads, Hong Kong and Australia was closer to them than, for instance, my country Slovakia, and Slovakia was 2 hours flight from London, and Hong Kong was on the news. There was on their mind. India, New Zealand. It's just in their society somehow, and the same is probably with the Western European countries, their populations regarding the former Yugoslav republics or the East. It's just not in their mental capability, or not gathering in, not in their heads really to think about things. It's the Far East, the socialist Far East. It's not their thing. I mean, they were kind of happy to get the Central Europeans in, the Baltics in 2004. 2007 got Romania and Bulgaria in. People kind of benefiting also from the labor that moved from the east to the west to kind of help out. That's for sure seen and positive. But mentally, I don't think for now Western countries, Western Europe is ready for an enlargement, even of small countries like, for instance, I don't know, Montenegro or Northern Macedonia.
Perfect. Thank you. So basically, I think we have all the points and all the aspects covered. Or do you think we have missed something from your perspective, Juraj?
What I would like to see there was an idea in my mind is that if this happened today, would the young people today react the way that our parents did? And I'm a big optimist, and I want to say yes, but somehow with the state of affairs that we're right now, it's hard to see. People are getting more comfortable with their lives. Everything is moving to the online space. The crisis of COVID helped kind of even more with this online stuff, social media, and I'm not sure that you can really change the world by tweeting about it or by sharing something on a social media outlet. And doing a strike for climate, for instance, is a way to kind of show your public, show your engagement, but in the end, nothing really happens. And that's what I see, that these are the couch protesters, and this generation, our generation, is also becoming this couch protester, that we're protesting by liking or disliking something on Facebook, and then or other social outlets. And so I wish to say that if something like this happened to us, that we would stand up for it, and my hopes are that we will. Um, but there are challenges to that in our post-Soviet societies.
Perfect. The point actually, I like very much this expression of the couch protesters. We have to change that because the people in Berlin, in Leipzig, 1989, or the people here in the Baltic states, they did something. They went together on the streets, and I think this is very important in these times, that we are not having the idea being couch protesters as a role model for our youth. Thank you very much, Juraj.
Thank you.